Welcome to the American Grown Podcast, hosted by Austin Sullivan. The American Grown Podcast will focus on people from different walks of life and their journey to where they are now. Now, turn up your volume and settle in for a great episode.
Hi, I'm Austin Sullivan, and I'm your host for the American Grown Podcast, recorded inside the Colortech Creative Solutions studios. Today, we have Steve Lebo, a retired industrial technology educator and coach who inspired students and athletes for 40 years with his passion and enthusiasm. Coach Lebo, welcome to episode 13 of the American Grown Podcast.
Thank you very much, Austin. It's a pleasure. And again, it's my privilege to be here. Your kind words by saying inspired students and athletes. At that time, I was very fortunate. Inspiration, it didn't hit home until most recently when you brought that to my attention. So I thank you very much for having me here.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad. Like I said, when you reached out through social media, through Facebook, we're Facebook friends, I was almost blown away, and I'm so glad you're here. So to give the listeners a little background, I've known Coach Lebo since about 2007. He was our 9th grade head football coach. That year, we went undefeated, 7-0. Well, technically, it was 9-0 because we did win 2 scrimmages. Also, Coach, I always remember at practice you saying, "Take a big boy pill and rub some dirt on it." You know, kids were just tougher back then, and we
Sure.
appreciated you for it. So,
I see you also remember the time I wanted you to wrestle.
yes,
You know, Austin, hell, I wanted everybody to wrestle. You know, I felt that our relationship as a team and a coach started back in July. We were in the weight room and we did all our calisthenics and did all that outside work. And then we got into the season with equipment. August, September, October, finished up in November. And then where to go? And that's why I wanted kids to compete, still be involved with athletics at high school. You know, 20 years from now when you say, well, what did you do at your reunion? Kids that did things will be at the bar, you know, sharing thoughts and having a good time. Yeah. Guys that didn't do anything are going to be sitting at the table with their wives wishing they were at the bar.
wishing they did. And
Yeah.
you can't go back.
No, you can't.
You can't go back,
No,
which
you
is something. So, yeah, I do. I remember you wanted me to come out to wrestle. And, you know, looking back, maybe I should have gave it a shot. You know, I didn't do it because I had football and track.
Sure.
But,
well,
yeah.
you never know. Kids who are active continue to be active, and I think that's all a part of the high school programs that you know, they're involved with this, they're involved with that, and after one sport, typically they want to try to do other things and be with their friends and all, but it's more to it than just that. I want to go lift weights. Well, you know how that goes, and then most of the time they're not, and they're chasing people in the hallway after school waiting for their activity bus. So been there, done that. So I encouraged all the kids to get involved with other activities. For myself, I pushed a lot of kids, but then again, I wanted kids to be kids.
Yeah.
So I wanted them to be diverse. That also puts them in a different pool of friends. And that's the high school experience.
You read my mind. You know, being a part of a team, whether football, wrestling, or whatever
Sure.
it may be, baseball, basketball, you got closer with your teammates. And, you know, some may say a brotherhood, you know, especially if you played middle school all the way up through, and then you carry that on. You know, those are your friends kind of for life.
Sure, you're an athlete.
Yeah.
You're an athlete.
Exactly. So now, Coach, for the listeners, let's take it back to your early childhood. What was life like? And
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Tell
You
us
know,
a little bit.
I had to dust off some books on the shelf to find some of those things, but there were a lot of influences. What was your childhood like? I grew up in Steelton.
Okay.
And you know, southeast Harrisburg, and Steelton is known for its athletes, athletics, football, basketball. I don't know so much about baseball. We didn't have the diversity as we have now in athletics. So, you know, I look back at that, Austin, and I felt, well, what influenced me? And, you know, as I went out to play as a young kid, most of the time there were pickup games. There were pickup games all over with different athletes, different age groups. It was just something that I was able to do and reflect back on that. So you played with tough kids, whether they were older than you or you were older than them. But most of the time it was football And basketball, heck, I couldn't dribble.
Yeah.
Coach put me in on those elementary games just to foul guys.
There you go.
And then baseball was predominantly the suburbs. Steelton was a small knit community. The old saying of 7 churches, 7 bars. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what Steelton was like. But baseball was in the suburbs. Enhot, Oberlin, and Bresler, they were a part of another school district, but I was able to play baseball there. So I was very fortunate. In the early 60s, we started to get boundaries changes, gerrymandering. So
Okay.
where I was growing up in Steelton, I would catch, I found myself being relocated into the Central Dauphin School District.
Oh.
And I caught the bus maybe 100 yards from the front door of Steel High.
Yeah.
But then we ended up going out to Colonial Park, and I competed at CD East,
Okay.
the Great League, Central Penn League. So I was very fortunate, but I had to leave my friends, and I caught a lot of guff for that. So growing up, I was influenced by my father. My father was a career Air Force.
Okay.
He was
I didn't know
career
that.
Air Force, and he was a Normandy vet. So he did 35 and 5. My mom was a stay-at-home. Both of them are athletes. So my father being away pretty much, but be able to be home for a lot of my events and activities. Mom would take me out and throw balls and punt, and we had a blast.
Yeah.
So that is a part of what I remember, though there's more, but I think we can
Yeah.
skip over a lot of that.
So it seems like, with your parents, is almost sports was second nature to you.
Yeah.
And they really influence you a lot with that. And I think you hit on something, Coach, and I want to kind of go back to what you just said about, when you were growing up back then, you could always find kids playing basketball in the corner or a
Sure.
football game going on.
Sure.
Why do you think nowadays you don't really see kids going out and playing sports like that anymore?
Trends. Trends come and go. Some of the trends are generational. Some of them are influenced by their parents and what they did. And I know my mom, believe it or not, boy, she could punt a football.
Yeah.
And my dad would come home from work, still in his Air Force outfit, his guard stuff, and he had his clodhoppers on. See me out there at the playing with the Steelton Raiders and midgets, and he'd set up a ball and kick field goals and extra points.
wow.
He also played for in his growing up days for New Cumberland High School, and he also played for the Bears. One of the local teams, the Capitol Bears, on City Island.
Okay.
And they would change into their outfits from the trunk of their 51
Really?
Chevy,
Is that what they would do?
Chevy Coupe.
Yeah.
So, money-wise,
Wow.
he just, they didn't pay for insurance, so he was on his own with that.
Right.
But that was a big influence to me, my parents.
Yeah. Remembering back to those high school years and like you said, we can start talking about college and also, but was there any coaches or teachers that you remember, even as you were coaching, that helped, inspire you, mentor you? For me, as I was playing sports, whether it was football or track, a lot of my teammates looked up to you. We wanted to win because
You're so kind.
No, I'm serious, Coach. But thank you. We wanted to win because of you, and it was assistant coach Peebles and like you said,
Rita.
Coach Rita.
Yeah.
It was a great group, you guys, and I think we wanted to win for you, and you made practice fun. Same thing with track with Rob Bear. He's got a good winning streak. People want to, they want to win for him. They want to play for him.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't have, my parents were my influences. Coaches, I can still look at the pictures and get an idea from the captions of who they were. As an influence, that didn't come into effect until I was in high school.
Okay.
That I had my head football coaches, wrestling coaches, and my baseball coaches. Again, you made a nice kind comment about you wanted to win for them, and that in essence, when you have a good team, that is a reflection of the coaching and the people who are on the field with you or on the mat with you. So my football coach, Neil Hickoff, he was one of my influences back in the day when I was played ball for the Central Penn League. with CD East. And boy, I'll tell you, that was a heck of a league with all big city schools, Williamsport, Reading, York.
Some hard-hitting kids and fast kids, bro.
They were a part of that. But we competed, and the successes that we had were because of the team that I played with. It wasn't just one person. Everybody chipped off on everybody else, and we were pretty successful back in the day. Neil Hickoff was my head football coach. Jim Rudder was my wrestling coach, and Bud Gruber was my baseball coach. Those gentlemen were very important to me.
Okay.
But then, when you graduate, you kind of leave those memories behind and open up another chapter in your athletic book.
Coach, that's a perfect segue into your college life, because you went to college, and I'm pretty sure you played football at least, but I could be wrong.
Sully, those were the memorable days. I had, and thanks for that question.
Yeah.
College, graduating in 72.
Okay.
Graduating in 72, NOM was starting to wind down. And a lot of guys were coming back using their GI Bill. Mm-hmm. Some guys who didn't go to a 4-year college were waiting for that moment of maturity. So now I, at 17, being 18 in September, ready to move on, was playing with guys in their early 20s who had been vets, and they were bigger, stronger, more mature. I started late in recruiting, and the recruiting part of that was I don't know who was going to help me out. Where do I go? Who do I sign? Right. Guidance people. This wasn't a big thing back in the day.
Okay.
One of my neighbors, Mike Stubler. Mike Stubler played center for University of Maryland. He lived on the other side of the block. So I went and saw Mike, and he mentioned 2 gentlemen who were coaches who knew me as they coached at Cedar Cliff, Bob Craig, and Mickey Minnick, who was at John Harris and Harrisburg High. So I went and visited. I set up appointments. Mr. Craig from Cedar Cliff had coached both wrestling and football, very successful. And then he brought up this junior college. What is a junior college? Well, he gave me a little explanation of that, and then I moved on. Then I'd gone to, made arrangements to see Coach Minnick, Mickey Minnick from Harrisburg, who before it was Harrisburg, it was John Harris. I spoke with him, and he said, Steve, a junior college would be your best bet. Well, here we go again. So they gave me a few. Wesley was one of them, Wesley Junior College in Dover, Delaware. I had visited with my parents, didn't know shucks from Shiola,
right,
and visited on the most rainy day in Dover history. So we went down and stopped, wound the window down. I said to a guy who was on the corner, is this Wesley? He said, no, it's the Capitol. So then we drove. He said, drive down here another block or two. I said, is this Wesley? No, it's an elementary school. So where the heck is this Wesley?
Right.
Wesley was on one square block. It had 4 dormitories, and there were 600 kids on campus full time. What a place, beautiful, a best place I could have gone. And it was in the Mid-Atlantic Junior College Coastal Conference. So we went from Nassau Coliseum, Nassau Junior College, to Shawan, Lees McRae, that was in Banner Elk, North Carolina. Baltimore Community College. I played against a dear friend of mine who I'd gone to Millersville with, Bud Getz, who Bud went to a school in Maryland. So I had a great experience. The story goes that I went as a linebacker.
Okay.
I was a linebacker in high school. I enjoyed that. So when I went down there, the linebackers, the first day when I got our equipment and we went down and met at the field, they started to separate everybody. Okay, offense over here, defense over here.
Yeah, yeah.
And defense were the tough guys. They were the vets. They were the big guys.
Yeah.
And they were just raw meat.
Yeah.
They wanted raw meat
Tough,
for dinner.
real tough. Yeah.
And offense, and I say this, it's not a chance until you take it. And this is one of those experiences that I shared with kids. Don't be afraid to take a chance. Mm-hmm. Well, I went over there with the offense. I thought, well, what the heck? Well, I always wanted to run the ball. I did that in pickup games and all those things with my buddies. And I was able to then select the next subdivision. I wasn't big enough for a lineman. Heck, they were 6'3" and 260s.
Right.
I wasn't
Big boys.
I wasn't fast enough for the receiver part. I didn't want to try quarterback, so I started to think about running the ball. So I went over here. And then Lebo luck kicked in.
Yes. Lebo luck. Okay.
Lebo luck kicked in, and the guy who started got injured.
Oh,
You know,
Johnny on the spot.
Johnny on the spot.
Yeah.
Let next guy in. This is college.
Okay.
And then the next guy was an All-American from New York. He was a high school All-American. He was a sophomore. This is only a 2-year school. So while we were playing the next couple days, he didn't show up, and we found out that he left school. Didn't want to play football anymore.
So there's some luck coming into play here.
So next guy up. And being a linebacker running the ball, I didn't have finesse and didn't have the moves.
Yeah.
So it was
Running downhill.
Running downhill. It was a split back veer, and I had my opportunity. So I 2 years of running the ball at Wesley Junior College was right down my alley. So I felt good with what I did and the choices I made. And then I had the blessed opportunity after my 2 years to transfer to Millersville. I got a phone call from the coach. It said, Dr. Gene Carpenter, a Sports Hall of Fame alumnus, and a Cornwall graduate and head coach at Millersville, got in touch with me and said, Stephen, we want you to come to Millersville. So I came to Millersville, and I played there. So that was my college preparation for the real deal, which is coming to Cedar Crest and coaching.
So, Coach, while at college, just kind of throw you a curveball. What do you think, because a lot of people, younger, high school students, right, getting ready for college, 2-year, 4-year, what is maybe one takeaway from college that you're not going to learn by going to classes there? Like, what do you think is maybe some key things that you can learn while there that they're not going to teach you?
Being at Wesley being a junior college, and you took your basic 100 and 200 level courses, they had a no-cut clause. 2 cuts, you drop the class. And being on time was very essential because that was documented also. The old adage, if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. If you're late, don't bother.
Yep.
Well, 8 o'clock classes, you had to get your keister out of the rack, and you had to hustle over, rain or shine. You had to get there. They were very strict and scrutinized all of your documentations and your pay. We didn't have calculators, and we had calculators, but no computers.
Yeah.
And we had whiteout that we used for a lot of our typing, and we always found somebody that was a good typer to type your paper. So they were molding the young mind to prepare for, if anything, the real world. Yes. Or the advancement into a 4-year institution. So it was a good place to be. I recall when my dad and mom dropped me off, I had my big duffel bag, and they made a comment at the bottom, don't bring dress stuff because you ain't going to need it.
You ain't going to need it? Okay.
And then when they shook my hand and kissed my mom and they left, I'm thinking, where are you going?
Right. That's when it gets real.
That's back in the day, and that's when it was going to be real. You met your roommate. My roommate, Tony Castagna. You could hear him sniffling at night. It was his first time away from home, and we had many conversations. So I could feel their pain, and this is a growing part of me also as to being a good listener and a humble person, and I felt that allowed me to grow as well.
It is kind of maybe a tough moment for some people because you've always had your family around you support you, and it's your first time on your own. But then more importantly, like you said, being on time. And I appreciate you showing up early. You were early here for the episode today, to the recording. And I've had some people I've reached out to, and I got excited, got everything prepped and ready, and they don't show up. They didn't bother to call or email, which is sad, And it's their loss, but we move on, Sure. So now, what made you decide to become a teacher and then to also maybe even become a coach? What really motivated you?
Wow. It was important for me to be successful. I was the only child in our family, and that included my cousins, and to go to college. What is post-college? Well, you got to get a job. Yeah. And there is life after football. I had, I recall this also goes into Coach Carpenter. I was on the 5-year plan. When I transferred from Wesley, I lost some credits because I dropped a class or two, and it opened up my portfolio from 64 hours that would be a package to go to the next institution to now dropping a class. It was pick and choose. They could really take away these credits. So I had to go to a summer school, but I graduated in the summer of '77. So now, while I was taking classes at Millersville, Dr. Carpenter, I recall, he had driven by. He was on campus. He drove by me walking to the library. There was nobody in the world walking about at this time of the day.
Yeah.
Except me.
Okay.
And he drove by, and do you think he would smile and wave at me? No. And I'm, hey, coach, here. Hey,
Yeah.
Lebo.
Yeah.
So then it would happen to be, I got my degree. I stayed on campus for another week or two, and my father called, and he said that Coach Carpenter called. He wants you to give him a call. But he didn't know how to get a hold of me, so he called Steelton by way of Millersville to get a hold of me. And he had said something to my father about a job.
Okay.
Oh, hey, here we go. Here we go.
Lebo luck.
Lebo luck.
I like it.
Being at the right place at the right time, and having the grades and opportunity, and being prepared for the opportunity.
Yes.
So what transpired, Austin, was that I gave him a call. He said, Stephen, there's a place in Lebanon, Cedar Crest. They're looking for a woodshop teacher and an assistant football coach. Well, and then his final comment was, don't let me down.
Yeah. Well, that's perfect.
So I went.
No pressure.
I went and got the interview, and this was at the end of the summer. People were really getting assigned to their classrooms, and here I am coming into the picture. And I got the interview, and at the same time getting the interview, I was in the office, and one of my dearest friends who got inducted on the class of '17, Dennis Tooley.
Okay.
And Dennis said, do you have anything to coach in? Well, this is lunchtime, but we're going on the field in about an hour. I said, yeah, but I didn't.
Okay.
But I know there was a J.C. Penney's over there at the plaza.
Yeah, I know where you're at. Yeah.
I had my mom's credit card.
Okay.
So I went and got some tube socks and some shorts and
Yes.
T-shirt, pack of Hanes shirts, and I went on the field and got introduced as the assistant coach.
Yeah.
There was only 4 of us: Dennis Tooley, Barry Heckert, and Tom Allman, who was a phys ed teacher, and they were looking for another one.
Okay.
So hey,
That worked out.
that worked out.
And I think what you mentioned, being prepared, and when, whether it's luck or opportunity, it's that you've put the time in,
Sure.
for that opportunity. And then when it hits, it's your moment to seize that opportunity.
Yeah.
And, if mom's credit card or, dad's cash had to help you out to get the uniform, to get on the field,
Sure.
that's all part of it.
I was very blessed. When I say luck, Austin, luck is when you believe in the Easter Bunny.
Okay.
Well, he showed up, and then Santa Claus coming down the chimney, he was right there in the chimney.
Yeah.
He was right there in the fireplace, and I was able to, don't rock the boat, be humble, take the opportunity, and then we'll worry about paying the bills and all that later. And I remember the amount that I'd gotten as a starting teacher. I then went down after one of our football games on a Friday and traveled down to Millersville to my old fraternity, and they had a party going on. So I walked in and, hey, how you doing? How's everything going? And I ran into one of our wide receivers that was there, and he was. I said, how you doing? Where are you at? Oh, I'm at a ski resort teaching skiing, making this amount of money. I said, damn, that's more than I'm making, and I'm a school teacher. Well, after a while, they let him go because there was no more snow.
Right.
and here comes me. I still got a job. And I'm very fortunate that I hung in there and allowed the chips to fall where they may in that position. Am I lucky? You bet.
Yeah.
Am I fortunate? You bet. And something just happened to shake loose and give me the opportunity. I don't know how many other people that they were looking at and interviewed. They liked what they saw, and 40 years after that, I was very fortunate. So yes, I was prepared. Opportunities, I took advantage.
Since we're on the topic of coaching, what did you find to be most rewarding during your coaching career, whether it was through football or wrestling? I know you were heavily into wrestling as well.
I had great interaction with the kids. The kids were the main part of who I was and allowed me to influence them, whether it be with wrestling, making lineups, having this person, this athlete go up and wrestle this tough guy, or come down and make weight and wrestle this kid. There was a purpose behind that. The old square peg in a square hole, you didn't want to find a square peg in a round hole. You had to know your team. If all I had were linemen on my team, well, I sure as heck couldn't run wide outs and sprint, all this other stuff. So I had to know the team and what their capabilities were. You had to take chances. And I was able to, look at the kid, the athlete, and say, are we able to do this? And I had to go in and call a timeout, walk in the huddle, and say to the kids, let's be honest. Are we able to do this? Some of the kids honestly said no. And then there were some that said yes. And then there was one incident where they said, yes, we can do this. We had our backs to the wall down at Hempfield. We were down by just less than a score, and we were on the 5-yard line. We had 95 yards to go, and it was 3rd and long, and Evan Ditzler, I don't know, for whatever reason, they were going to come. They were coming down. Hempfield was going to run the stunts and the blitzes. He got the snap, threw it to Chris Coleman.
Yep.
And he went 95 yards for a touchdown on a quick slant.
Now that you say it, yeah. Those were the days. That was so much fun.
Come on, give me something tough to do.
There you go.
So if it worked, hey, we were happy.
We're golden.
You bet. If we didn't, it was a long ride home.
Yeah, right.
So I was able to, one of my mentors, and I know we'll get into that in a moment here, but one of my mentors was Frankie Hetrick.
Okay, yes.
And Het had a comment, it don't pay to be ugly. They're kids. And if somebody does something wrong, especially at that junior high level, and they come off the field after something had happened, they got a flag, and it was not something that they did purposefully, but it was something that happened, and we got a flag, so he comes out. You don't yell at the kid. He knows he did something wrong.
Yeah.
There are people who will grab face mask and look me in the eye and all that stuff. Well, that sure as heck doesn't make the kid feel good. You look like a stooge to the parents.
Right.
And he will always remember you just for that. Not the incident that occurred, but you will have that child go back into the huddle and not think of what's the next play. He's always going to have this ugly on his mind. So don't be ugly. And I recall that was Frank's line to the kids. My ability to get the kids when we were on the bus.
Okay.
That was another one. My goal was to get them on the bus, have the balls, shut the door, and let's go raise heck somewhere.
Yeah.
And the first thing I did, well, do we have a team? And then do we have a punter? Do we have wide outs? Do we have a guard, center, tackle? And everybody raise their hand. Well, we're ready to go.
Yeah.
All right, bus driver, let's go find somewhere to play. And that's inspired the kids as well. They found if we didn't have a guard, someone had to play guard from the tackle position. And numbers didn't matter in junior high. I would tell the official once we got there that we don't have enough shirts, and this is the case. So we were able to work as a team fundamentally. We were able to solve our own problems as a team.
Yeah.
And also academics were very important. So I had to keep the kids on task every week. So my ability to influence the kids in a positive way and see that they came out the next year.
Yeah.
That was important.
Oh, and for sure, I think, like I said earlier, my fellow teammates, I mean, we loved playing for you. Just the one-liners you had and the motivation that you put out. You could tell you really cared. And like you said,
thank you.
And like Het said, you weren't ugly. And I think that's a great life lesson for, I'm going to be a future parent here shortly. And,
Yeah.
it's not so much the yelling and getting excited in their face, but, learning from it and say, hey, let's go get them on the next play, or,
Sure.
let's do this instead of doing it like that, I think is huge. So this is kind of a loaded question, Coach, but I wanted to ask you, what was your favorite sport to coach?
Oh, that's tough.
You can be honest with me, because I know you're a big wrestler, but you're big football.
I found myself closer to the kids in wrestling than I was in football.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know.
Maybe it's more one-on-one interaction?
Yeah, one-on-one interaction. You had to, it's feeding time at the farm. You called all the animals in, and that was the football program.
Right.
You had to get all them in. You had to, line 11 guys up for 5.7 seconds.
Yeah.
You pushed the happy button, the play went off, and you had to do it again. And you had 24 seconds to do that. Wrestling, we were in a small room, and we wrestled upstairs in the pool gallery. We had, there was just something about, there's one that's no more important in my life than the other. It's how you coached and how you influenced. You had to make sure that we all had progress reports. We did that in both sports. We had, there was no weight checks for football, but we had weight checks and BMIs, body mass index, for wrestling.
You had to make weight.
We had to make weight. You had to make sure that you were down according to the PIAA weight structure loss, so that kids wouldn't go into a shower, sweat box with plastic on, and lose a lot of water weight because there was health issues.
Yeah.
So we had that. Football was 11 weeks. Wrestling was 13 weeks. And if you were successful at the end of the season, then you went into postseason. Then you went into the sectional tournament, district round, or if you're fortunate, you wrestled in a state tournament. So football, it was hot, Sometimes it rained, and there were times we stood out in the rain.
Oh, yeah.
And played in the mud and all that.
Yes.
The wrestling, it was snow. It was cold. And, we would get on buses at Red Eye Specials at 5:30 and drive up to Newport and wrestle in tournaments. So each one had its highs and lows. The highs, if you win, riding on the bus home was fun.
Oh, yeah.
And if you lose, riding on the bus, it's not fun.
It's a quiet ride.
It's a quiet ride.
Yeah.
And the kids knew that. And that to me is what I would say would be they were both a grind. Here we go. Each had their highs and lows. And I stated that the bus rides were things that stuck out most to me. You could be riding on a stiff, rigid suspension of the yellow cheese box, smell of diesel, for your ride. And there were a lot of times we got out of the Lancaster Lebanon League and went over to Berks.
Okay.
Or we went up north and wrestled we wanted to compete against good teams. So, we had to prepare. We had to prepare for them.
So now, Coach, what would you say you're most passionate about, whether was coaching, or now that you're out of coaching and retired? What's your passion in life? What do you think?
It's having. This was another one I thought pretty much about. To have a worth. What is my worth now that I've completed what the Lord put me on this earth to do, and be blessed and thankful for? That now. I met I said, who the hell's going to remember me? Well, after I retire, it'll just be the 10th, 11th, 12th graders. The next year, it'll be the 11th and 12th grade. The next year will be the seniors only. And then after that, it's like, who the hell's Lebo?
Right. Yeah.
So I find myself just being a part of something, my importance, my viability, having importance in life. When you first retire, it's, am I prepared for retirement?
Yeah.
To not be a part of a team and having the effectiveness of a head coach or influencing a position or some of those kids, that is hard to walk away.
Oh, I can imagine.
And that allows me then to find other niches. Sully, being with the wrestling program, testing,
Yep.
being
Oh,
on
yeah.
the mic and doing the scoring. I'm very blessed to have had an opportunity to get into the league tournament and do the scoring for the sectional tournament, PIAA sectional, and
Okay.
also the district. So I'm engaged with wrestling at that capacity. Plus, over at Falconland, I'm up in the bird's nest at the press box,
Yeah.
and still doing that.
Are
And
you?
then
Oh, good,
I
yeah.
do that for the freshmen.
Okay.
And the freshman games and the littler kids.
Yeah.
Monday afternoons, 4:00 start. Get out of there. Go feed the dog.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
And also I work with Coach Lambros with track.
Okay.
So I still keep my hand in things that allows me to be an influence with young athletes. I've been always surrounded with athletes, and I don't want to lose that.
Yeah. Oh, and ever since I've known you, Coach, you've always been passionate, no matter what you put your mind to. And someone would always remember too, being a thrower in track. You were there. You were the measuring guy with the tape, and just like you said earlier. Can you give me it one time? Let's hear it.
Mark.
Exactly right. Sully in the hole or whatever.
Sully in the hole. You got it. On deck and in the hole. And Lambros.
Yeah.
Nick was my wingman.
Okay.
And he has been with me for many years. Now, this is my 43rd, 44th year in track. And I had some breaks in football, wrestling. Watching my son graduated, then I took a break to watch my daughter swim.
Okay.
And then I got back into it because I was asked by a head coach. And then the same thing with football. I don't want to be nailed down to anything. Friday, I like to sit back down and watch, the people yell at them.
Right.
Yell at those coaches, not me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, my viability. I still have the passion, but Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday, I don't think I need that. Friday nights, if we could just go and play the game,
Right.
then it would be a lot more fun.
Well, you did your time, dealing with the coaches and the refs and the fans. I'm sure throughout your coaching career, you had a lot of parents say, hey, "Why are you doing
changed.
this?" Yeah.
The goal is it's a game, and the goal is to get the ball in the end zone. And then when we get into common sense, 3.5 yards per down will move the ball.
Right.
Run the clock, and you can diverse your calls. Norby Dance. Norby is again one of my influences, one of my mentors.
Yeah.
And Norb would tee him up. He would go straight tee, too tight, straight tee, and make the defense choose where they want to put their strength.
Okay.
And then it was always a call on the field where we would go away from their strength. And then you do the same thing on the goal line when you're going for extra points. I like the ball on the hash because then they had to protect the wide side of the field. And don't forget the screen. We will always throw the screen. Those kind of things. Keep it simple. And that was the fun of creativity with the kids. Can we do it and still be a part of the Falcon package, the playbook?
Yeah.
I don't want to deviate from that because I got called in many times and please shut the door on your way in, Coach.
Oh, no, one of those talks.
But we won.
Yeah, there you go.
We won. Yes.
Perfect, Coach. I want to go back to the question I had earlier. So now, coaching career is over. You're retired. So what do you do day in and day out? What's the average day look like now that you're retired? I always remember, and maybe you'll say this, but one of your sayings, I think you used to say you do your push-ups in the shower with your Oreos and orange juice or something.
Yeah, I always get, I multitask.
Right.
Wrestling, you wanted to get your system puckered, so you drank a warm glass of water. You might as well drink some orange juice while you're up there and have a couple Oreo cookies.
Right.
I say that to the kids to get them jacked a little bit. You could be firm and stern, but you also want to have fun. And what I do now, I try to put my 8 hours. I still have a purpose, so I put my 8 hours in. Whenever I get up, I'm on the clock. So then if it's a front end, if I start at 6, I want to get out of there. I want to stop whatever I do by, let's say, 3 or 4 o'clock.
Right.
If, I'm feeding a dog and she don't want to go out I get her to a walk.
Yeah.
But if I can't start my day till about 9, then 5 o'clock. And I'm talking about, when do I turn the TV on? I always use the radio.
Okay.
And most of it is just focused, purposefully oriented and structured, so that I don't just waste the day, pee the day away.
Right.
And then my lady friend always texts me and says, "Hey, did you do any word searches?"
Okay.
For my head.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
so I don't
Gotta
lose
stay
it.
mentally sharp. You
And
got to.
my fish oil pills,
pills.
they're pretty good too.
So any golf coach? You do any
No,
golf?
I hate golf.
Okay.
I hate
I
golf.
just had to ask, because a lot of people, when they retire, I'm going to go golfing, and they might not have ever golfed in their life,
Yeah.
but they retire, they think they're golfers.
I hate golf.
All
I
right.
hate even when we were in a coffee room. There's many times at Cedar World that Gunther and
Gunther
Freddie Shirk and Chick and a lot of the supposed good golfers. That's all they talked about.
Yeah.
Putting new grips on their clubs.
Oh, geez.
Cleaning out the face of their club and all that stuff. And hell, I when I'm out there, I only golf in tournaments, like once a year. And I hope in tournaments that when we do a scramble, that 1 or 2 of my balls can be played throughout somehow. Then if I'm not doing well, I say to myself, like, what in the hell am I doing here? I could be painting.
Right. Yeah, a little more productive.
Yeah. Than trying to find this little ball. It's in the woods.
Right,
It
yeah.
don't make sense. And,
Yeah.
I love my friends, but I hated when they talked about it. And that's all they talked about is, I shot a 81.
Yeah.
Well, that's on the front 9 for Big Steve here.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I just had to ask, because I know that's a big
I
thing.
walk right now.
Okay.
Right
Yeah.
now, on my health kick, is my sweat. I have to sweat.
Okay.
So I have a 2-mile walk and 50 sit-ups. So I try to do that.
Oh, wow.
And
Nice, Coach.
at least 3 or 4 times a week. Maybe 2 to 3 times
I
a
thought
week.
you're looking good. You're looking sharp over there.
Oh,
Seriously.
It's a bigger waist.
Yeah.
It's waist pants. But I enjoy the opportunity and the willingness that I've been blessed to get out there. And my lady friend does the running, the yoga, pyrometrics. She does all that. I'm the guy, when she runs a race, is at the finish line with a cigar.
There you go. Right.
cheering her on.
Yeah, yeah.
But I still do my workouts, my walks, and that's enough.
Yes.
And I enjoy what I do. Whatever I can do, I try to do mostly on my own, because there's no one. Come on, honey, let's go. Right. No, you're on your own.
You're on your own. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you're retired, and I saw on the form you filled out to be on the podcast.
Sure.
Can you tell me about the recent induction you had into the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame? I mean, I think that's a pretty big honor.
How about that?
Yeah. Congrats. Seriously.
Am I fortunate? Again, most of it, Sully, was probably time. It wasn't championships.
Okay.
It wasn't that I was able to carry the water for a lot of these athletes. It was just something that I put 40 years in, 37 in football. I did over 30 years in wrestling. And then my ability to have a past which was probably more productive than my, what I'd done in high school. But I did 40 years of being involved, and they recognized that. I was in with a good inductee class in 2017. Mike Capriotti from Anvil Cleona, Bohannon from Elko,
Elko. Yep.
and Dennis Tooley. He came in. He was with Lebanon as a administrator, but he also coached football at Cedar Crest, and then he went to Penn Manor, and then he was in the Berks County League there, and I think it was with Wilson. So he was also a part of that group. Terry Lehman was also a part of that group. And then I believe there was a young man from the Hershey Bears also. So I got a call from one of the chapter heads, and Don Scott. Don Scott gave me a call one evening, and I want to be the first to congratulate you, Steve. And it was like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah.
And he threw it out there, and I was so wow. After the phone call, I was on there, dial 1-800, call my daughter, call my son,
Right.
call everybody.
Yeah.
And I didn't know who all to thank. So that night for my induction, I just did that. I went from who I was affiliated with from my high school to my college, Frank and Dale, my mentors, Norby Dans, Jerry Ebersol. Jerry was my wrestling coach. He was Cedar Crest's first wrestling coach. So after time, and then I had gotten to Cedar Crest, he had come to ask me, Steve, would you be interested in coaching wrestling? So, well, Jerry, I've never coached wrestling. I've wrestled in high school. I was a guinea pig at college. They wanted me to work out with these guys, and they just threw me around. So, I don't know. Maybe call me next year. That was after my first football season in '77. 1 year after that, to the day, he knocked on the door and said, what do you think, Steve? Would you be interested? Mm-hmm. I said, well, I've not coached wrestling. And he made a comment. If you're a coach, you should be able to coach a crab that likes sand and an Eskimo that like ice.
There you go.
So, hey, all right, where do I sign?
Yeah.
And then now I'm a assistant football coach, assistant wrestling coach, and I just let time go.
Yeah.
And I was able to, and which was very important, I was able to meet kids. Mm-hmm. I was able to sell the program in the wood shop. I was able to sell the kids in football to come out for wrestling.
Yeah.
Stay busy, stay active. So that, and time went by. I'm very fortunate to be make an impact there at Cedar Crest.
Congrats for those honorees, because seriously, that's awesome. Definitely well deserved. But COVID, and I know it was back in 2020, and some people say, why do you bring it up on the podcast? And I like to hear how other people have dealt with it and dealt with the issues and how they, if they're still dealing with it, because it did impact everyone,
Sure.
across the world, and a lot of businesses went out, a lot of restaurants closed up. How did COVID affect your life?
When I look back on it now, to me it seemed more as a political issue. Politics, religion, my job. You don't always want to put it on the shelf and move away from that.
Right.
I'd gotten the first shot, and son of a gun, I was at a wrestling tournament for my grandson. Of all things, my grandson wrestles. My son is his coach for York Central. So I was at a tournament, and then one of those things, the backache, the sniffles, losing taste, headache, got the old test, and it came back positive. Well, then that shut the world down. It shut me down. And what I felt I was able to do, I couldn't do, because they're talking quarantines, shut the door. You walk outside. It was like an old scary movie. No one was out in the neighborhood.
Yes. Yeah.
So I was kind of watching TV a lot and just kind of pissed and frustrated. And then I had to postpone my second shot. And once it came back negative, I was able to get my shot, and then I got my booster, and life goes on. So I've got a ditty bag of all these damn masks. I don't know what I want to do with them. And I'm afraid to dump them. And I go to places now where masks are optional. But I keep one in the car just in case someone wants to throw a ringer out there.
Right.
But no, life goes on. I'm sure I have the not only the vaccinations, I have the boosters, but I also have that the immune system kicking in.
That's
so
huge.
I feel good with that.
Good. No, and like I said, you look great. And
thank you.
Yeah, COVID definitely affected everyone differently. So the one thing, Coach, you filled out on your form, which I really liked it, you said you wanted to talk about how do you use common sense to your advantage. And I feel like the world nowadays, is lacking some common sense and some street smarts,
I'm not as bold and brash as I have been in the past, where, I listen to, in the evening, I'm very powered down and enjoying my time with the dog, the ice cream, and watching my conservative talk shows.
Yeah.
And they seem to, on occasion, show a clip of parents fighting at elementary games or at summer league playgrounds because of bad calls and umpires. And it's only a game. And remember, we had said earlier about taking a hold of the guy's face mask and getting in his, getting in his grill. And, I common sense simply says there are ways to get in the end zone. There are ways to teach a dog to sit. There are ways to get a point across. And I choose the path of least resistance, A to B.
Right.
And that's how we got into the end zone. That's how I influenced the kids. I am blessed when I go over to my favorite store, Walmart, and go up and down the aisles, and I see kids who say hello to me. And they'll say, do you remember me? And, I go through the alphabet, A, B, C, D.
Right.
And they say, Coach, or, Mr. Lebo, you were my shop teacher. Well, then now I know that that's a segment of time that's way back there.
Yeah.
And how I had influenced them. What are you doing now? I'm a cabinet maker. That to me is important. Working out strengths of your team, common sense. Yet again, the square peg in a round hole.
Right.
If I have all linemen out there, well, then we're going to run the ball.
Yeah, right.
Give it to Sully.
Yeah, don't try to throw it because I'm not going to catch it. It's just,
Yeah. And what are my kids able to do? Benny Coleman never kicked a deep kickoff.
Right.
We always squibbed it.
Yep.
And I learned that real quick, that you don't kick it deep to a fast runner, or because our slow guys who I want to get in a game just aren't getting down there fast enough. So by the time that ball bounces, you know where it's going to go. We're going to get you. And those things, punting the ball, I was never afraid to punt the ball. Pin them in the end zone, pin them deep, and let them go field.
Yeah.
And have faith in my defense. And boy, that fired up our defense when the opposing team had 90-some yards to go. So those are the things that I look back on. Do the things that the opponents are too dumb, that you think you're too dumb to do, and do it.
Okay.
And do it again.
Yeah.
And when they think you're not going to do it again, you do it again.
Do it a third,
Just
triple up.
keep on doing it.
Yeah.
And then wrestling. You put your lineup out there, but then you don't send out on the mat until they send their guy out first. So you have an idea who you're going to be competing against. I mean, there's just things that make common sense. Yeah. And you take a lot of notes. I'm structured to write things down. I learned from a lot of other coaches. I write some of their moves down that they do, and some of their pass plays and some of their blocking schemes.
Yeah.
So common sense simply says you can be an effective coach if you are a good listener and a good overseer of programs. And when you win, life is good.
Life is very good.
Life is good.
Coming into the last couple questions here.
Sure.
I'm going to ask you because I want to see what you have to say. And this episode might get out and there's some old coaches might want to connect. Is it Facebook? How would you like them to reach out to you?
Well, that's a tough one. I don't know if anybody really wants to know what I do with myself. The only Facebook I am on is for my high school. I have my 50th high school anniversary coming up. And I don't know, there's not a hell of a lot of us left over, but there's going to be a few there that they had saw some of the items on Facebook. I do that primarily. Well, I don't do it. My daughter does that. Mm-hmm. My daughter-in-law does that, and they post a lot of things, and I just go for the ride. And I ask them at times, "What do you think about this?" I have for my college buddies, both at Wesley and also with Millersville. Mm-hmm. Family members for my cousins. They post some things, and I have a couple friends that are on different parts of the country that are from college. So those are important to me. I don't go on there and just like this, don't like this, and
just follow every.
I don't.
Tom, Dick, and Harry.
I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can't find out why that one thing beeped,
right?
And am I supposed to listen to that or do something, react to it? My journey is just that. I'm busy. I work within a radius of maybe 5 miles. I'm always at Walmart picking up things. Home Depot, I'm picking up things. I work at the church, the Serbian church on Weidman Street. Mm-hmm. I work there, vice president and of grounds of the church. I enjoy that. I enjoy the busyness. When I'm busy, I'm happy.
There you go.
When I don't have something to do, something's wrong.
Yeah.
But to be connecting with my journey, I'm out there. When you see me, wave.
There you go.
When you say hello, make sure you tell me year of graduation.
Yep.
When you multiply that times how many kids you had, times how many sections you had, and it's a lot of people.
You've impacted a lot of people's lives.
Sully, I very much have enjoyed what I've done. And I will always give a hand up and a leg up to people, and I'll always smile and make sure that I say hello to you and thank you very much. I remember one more story. And this is pretty slick. Norby Dans, when Nubs and Frank and Dale.
Yeah.
We would go scouting. This is back in the day when we didn't have that influence of the technology where you would log in and you're able to pick up the film that's out there. I'm not sure what the term is for that.
Yeah.
But we had to go scout. We had to go write X's and O's. And I remember Frank was responsible for, I don't know what. Dale, I don't know what he was responsible with. But then we'd go to McCaskey, and this is where Norb's old stomping ground was.
Okay.
He coached at Catholic. Then he went to Cedar Crest. Then he went to McCaskey. Then he came back to Cedar Crest. They loved him down there. So when we would pull into the campus of a McCaskey football game, they played at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
So that people could go to other games in Lancaster County. So we would park and they would see Norb would drive. And it would be Frank, Dale, sometimes Stevie Miller. Norb would be the driver, and then we'd pull into the campus. And all of a sudden, the cops would know Norb. And they had a place already held for him.
Oh, nice.
Honest to God, and then we'd walk and where's Norb? Oh, he's back there, talking to people. And then we'd show a pass to get in, a coaching pass, and they would let us in. And Norb would get to the ticket gate. All these parents and ticket takers and program sellers and the concession stand, they loved him.
Yeah.
And he said to Frank and Dale and I, go ahead, I'll be right there. Well, hell, he never showed up to about halftime.
I was going to say, he never made it.
And I felt that is the most awesome exchange of friendship that a person could have with a coach and parent, and just the bond that he had with his fellow colleagues and just people. And I remember, don't ever say when a kid comes up to you, a student or athlete comes up to you and says, Coach, I got a problem. Don't ever say, oh, I'll shake it off. It's nothing. He had said that in response to that statement. If it's a problem to a kid, it's a problem. When you want to know about problems, go to McCaskey and you will see problems. So that, to me, hit home very hard, that when a child or a student has an issue, you listen. And that to me was so important, that people loved Norby Dans. And I wanted that type of
relationship, connection.
When I go to Cedar Crest, I don't want them throwing things at me.
Or booing you, get them out of here. Right.
Yeah. That to me was very special.
Yeah.
And when we went to other places, we go to Hempfield, and they had day games. And this is back when we were still scouting, and Norb we'd been in the end zone, and they're running their plays, and the game didn't start yet. And then Hempfield is at one end, and their opponent was at the other end. And Norb would just get underneath the old the fence that was there, and he'd walk over to the coach and who we were going to play, and start shooting a bull with him underneath their goalpost. And I wouldn't dare do that, but Norb had that charisma.
Maybe moxie?
Would you
say moxie?
Yeah, moxie. Those two things were that big.
He's ballsy, right?
Yeah. So that to me was very important. That I could emulate some of the things that those people did, but they were never the same. Norb was Norb, and Frank was Frank, and Dale, God rest him, Dale was Dale.
Yeah, they were unique, and they had their own characteristics about them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Before we close out, is there anything else, you'd like the listeners to know?
I've been very fortunate. I looked upon, why me? And it's just taking a chance on an opportunity. When I went to college at Wesley, and I could have gone over here with the meat eaters, I went over here with the daisies and went on the offensive side. When Carpenter said, "Don't let me down for a job," I took it 40 years later. I had those opportunities to succeed in. How do you measure success? Everybody's different. And my success could be measured in just moments of time. And some of them were just being at the right place at the right time. I've had many mentors. I've had the great fortune to be surrounded by good people. The good people, the more good things you do, the more good people you'll be surrounded by.
It attracts them.
You bet.
Yeah.
And I just felt that this is my calling. And when I was asked to do something for the school or for a program, I did it. And it wasn't hard to do. It was just something to do. So I felt very fortunate. I also want to take an opportunity to thank you. You have given me this feeling of worth that, right now, I got some dirt on my pants.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm out there, and I took a big boy pill. And, I remember one more that sometimes you got to pet the horse, and there's sometimes you got to kick the horse.
Yeah, yeah.
If you want him to pull the plow, then after that you got to shoot it.
Right.
It's time.
It's time. Yeah.
So,
Well, Coach, let me ask you, because I was wondering, how did you first hear about the American Grown podcast that we're on right now? How did you hear about what I was doing?
Sully,
Because you reached out to me.
did I?
Yeah.
Somebody, see, this
Yeah.
might be those, you get this phone call, and on the readout, where you get the digital readout of who it is, 9 out of 10 times it ain't that. It's probably someone selling me candy.
Right.
Or
Vacuums or
yeah,
something.
or want my electric bill to go down. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was...
It must have been something with Rob Bears, because his episode came out, and then you reached out to me, which I was so happy.
Something
Yeah.
to the effect of, I liked Rob. Rob is a mentor of mine. I relish the fact that this guy is another one like Frankie Hetrick. It don't pay to be ugly.
Yeah.
He's always positive.
Loves the kids. Yes.
And he gets that dog to hunt.
He does, yeah. He gets them motivated just like you did. Yeah.
So I don't know. It could have been something to be friended. I don't know. And I don't do that because someone scammed me and took my information on Facebook and it was spammed or whatever the term is that they use for corrupting my account. So I had to reset all my values.
Right.
So I'm glad it happened. I'm again pleased to say that I'm honored to see kids who I have had this relationship with, athletes, personally on the field, whether it be you taking pictures and me yelling at you and,
Right.
Get off the mat, get off the field, watch that javelin, Sully,
Yep. Oh, yeah.
That to me, and now you're going to be a father.
Yes. Yep.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah.
What a journey. Now, my journey is, I don't want to say it's concluding, but that light at the end of the tunnel might be a train coming.
Well, get out of the way.
Get out of the way. Yours, take a lot of notes, document, because this time goes so fast. And I look back and say, holy heck, where'd it go?
Time does fly.
This gray hair was once black.
Well, Coach, at least you have hair, though. Look at me. I'm going to go gray in the beard. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Well, hey, these two.
Yes, I was just going to ask what you brought today.
Yes.
Can you give us a little bit? Because I'll put pictures up. Yeah.
This one,
Lebo Luck.
Lebo Luck. Someone had, I don't know how this was for the Lebanon Daily News. And it could have been from Pat Higgins. It could have been from Jeff Falk. It could have been, there was another gentleman. He went to the Lancaster Intel. All of a sudden, we're 4-0. I have a good team. And it looked like we were able to continue. We went 11-6 as a dual meet team.
Okay.
And I don't think we've ever been, now I could be wrong, and I'm sure that I don't like going out there and throwing incorrect statistics.
Right.
but I think I'm pretty freaking close.
Yeah.
That we were a good team, and we could put that up on the board. With that said, this there's a lot of reasons behind that, and it's just having kids come back a second year. I like to say to the kids, you're not bad. I don't like to say, kids, you're great.
Yeah.
Great kind of puts a cap on the ability.
You feel like you made it.
I want to say you're good. You have the potential to be great, but you're just good. And
It humbles you.
You got a lot of work to go through yet, and your chapter. We're not done with your chapter book. So I felt with this in our interview, someone came to me and said, "Do you mind if we interview you?" And I threw out there how lucky I am. And luck is also fortune. I'm very fortunate with a lot of things. I'm very blessed. Say my prayers every once in a while. I do need that little help and shot in the old keister.
Right.
And
keep you honest.
I know he's helping me. He's not going to give me a free ride. He's
Right.
going to just open the door of opportunity and make sure I do the right thing.
Yeah. And your other piece here, you were telling me a little
This
bit
is
about. A caricature.
This is a caricature that we were successful. This is back with Kirsch and Hayes and
Those are big names at Cedar Crest High School.
Kirsch, Hayes, Snoke, Himmelberger. We had a great line that we were playing with. Weber was our center. We didn't run first downs. We didn't have first downs. We were running at touchdowns. Touchdowns were our key. We just powered people over. And those things happened. This could also be Andy Payne's year. Andy Payne, Derek Walters. This is when we had gone to district playoffs against Central Dauphin at Hershey Park, and
that's right.
That is what this is about. So someone had come to us and wanted pictures. So Stevie Miller in the photo lab took pictures of each one of us, gave it to Carly. And he did the sketches and caricatures, and this was presented to Norby at his retirement party, and that was a big deal over at the Holiday Inn.
Oh, they're both awesome pieces, and I'm glad you brought them. And I wanted to open this while we're live because no one's brought me a card. You're the first person.
Is that right?
Out of 13 episodes.
I hope that doesn't mean anything.
No, well,
they forgot it. They forgot
right.
in the car.
What they think of me,
Yeah, they forgot it out front.
But maybe this will be the standard going forward. Oh, I love it already. Oh, Coach. Oh, boy.
It just happened to find the right things.
Oh, wow. Oh, this is great. I'll put a picture up then on social media so everybody can read it. I want to read it to myself then. But no, Coach Lebo, this has been fantastic. I'm going to wrap it up unless you have anything else you'd like to share. I'm going to wrap the episode up.
Not at all.
Awesome. Coach.
And if I talk any more, I'm going to be redundant. I'm going to have to start this thing over again.
People think we're starting from the top. So, Coach Lebo on the American Grown podcast in the Colortech Creative Solutions studios, thank you for joining me.
My pleasure.
If you want to see more American Grown content, follow along on Facebook and Instagram. Username American Grown Podcast. If you received any value, please share this episode with friends, family, and coworkers. And lastly, subscribe and leave a review.
If you'd like to be a featured guest on the podcast, please direct message or email Austin at AmericanGrownPod@gmail.com.